I mean, two of them are just still doing their PhDs, but we're going to hear more from them on various topics. And my name is Yasmin Fatima. I'm the founder of Foundation for Equal Citizenship. And once again, welcome everyone. And my apologies for all the hiccups today. With that, let's start with the introductions. Vidya, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Yasmin. Hi, everyone. I'm Vidyadharan. I'm an IT leader in one of the information technology firms, TCS, to be specific. And I completed my bachelor's in engineering and my master's in control systems. And then I joined TCS as an intern. And I've been part of the Tata consultancy services ever since, over the last 25 years. I've played multiple roles, developer, systems analyst, and business analyst, and over multiple technology domains, including starting with mainframe and client servers and web technologies. So I have seen the entire gamut of the software industry, how it has progressed, especially in the outsourced services in India. And currently I have been, so I managed multiple projects and programs for high-tech industries and a few other domains, including insurance and banking. More recently, I have moved to a sales and pre-sales kind of a role. This is especially after completing delivery leadership and leading customer accounts for 10 years in as account manager and delivery head. So more recently, I wanted to take on a sales kind of a role, and I've been doing pre-sales and sales. So that's my brief introduction, and I'm sure we can discuss more, about my journey once we start the conversation. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sarah?
Hi guys. So as Yasmin pointed out, I'm one of the students in the PhD program. I'm based out of Indraprastha Institute of Technology, Delhi, and I work at the Laboratory for Computer Social Systems. So basically, we combine algorithms and machine learning techniques and apply them to social networking sites and internet platforms to study the various user interactions, how content is being generated, spread, reacted to, etc. The specific area that I work in is the analysis of hate speech on social networking sites, like trying to detect it, trying to see how it's spreading, and eventually the goal would be to, once we know what it is, can we stop the spread? So that's basically the area that I'm currently working in. Previously, I did my bachelor's from Jamia, and I also worked in the industry for 2 years before deciding to come back for higher studies. Yeah, well, that's pretty much about me.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. And Ananya has, we'll hear from her more about her journey. But currently she's in the US, and let's hear from you, Ananya.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ananya Paul. I'm doing my PhD in physics from the University of California at Riverside. So I'd like to talk a little bit about my background, and then I'll talk about my work. So I was born and raised in Guwahati in Assam, and I did my schooling over there. I moved to Delhi for higher studies, and I completed my BSc from University of Delhi in 2015. And then I did my MSc from Jamia Millia Islamia in 2017. In 2018, I moved to the US in pursuit of a PhD, and I joined Stony Brook University. But I exited from the university with a master's in 2020 and joined UC Riverside because I was getting a scholarship here. So my broad area of research is experimental nuclear physics, and I study the proton spin, and we use a lot of data from Brookhaven National Lab for my research analysis. And ma'am, if you don't mind, I would like to share some slides depicting my work a little bit in detail, not too much, just some pictures and some concepts.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So there, it says it's disabled participant screen sharing. So I don't know.
All right. See, you should be able to share now.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So so I look at the proton spin problem, and we have all studied, or people who are taking science must have studied, that the proton has spin half, but the proton is not an elementary particle. The proton is further made up. This is the structure of the proton. The proton is further made up of quarks and gluons, and the interactions between quarks and gluons. So if the proton spin is half, then what exactly do the quarks, gluons, and the orbital angular momentum contribute to the spin half is what we are studying. So when the
I don't want to cut you off, but maybe, I don't know how, but if you could explain maybe in a very basic way, because I'm not sure everybody is able to follow this, because it's quite theoretical. My apologies, but I just want to make sure everybody kind of is able to follow.
Yeah, definitely. This is just one slide. So I'm just studying spin. The reason that it is important, because it is used in some of the modern medical machine technology like MRI. So I work at this facility at Brookhaven National Lab. It is the relativistic heavy ion collider. So it is like 4 kilometers in circumference. It's a very huge machine, and it's visible from outer space, and it collides a number of particles. So my research is based on the data accumulated from one of the detectors at BNL. It is called STAR. So this is the diagram of the detector. And then on the right, you can see the real actual picture of the detector. So it recently went through an upgrade, and I was a part of the hardware development. So this is me working on some of the detector things, building it up. And then they are my teammates who were also a part of the detector upgrade. And these are some pictures of me with my entire team after we were done with our work, after it was the detector was completely built. And it is scheduled to take data for the next 4 years. And after that, it will be converted to the electron ion collider. And it has been funded by the DOE. And this is where we take the data in the control room, and then hardware and analysis. Yeah, sorry, ma'am. I'm just done. Yeah.
No, I was saying maybe people may not know what DOE stands for.
Oh, yeah. So DOE is the Department of Energy of US, and they have funded this future collider, electron ion collider, with about 2.5 billion, and it is scheduled to run from 2030. And we are working towards that after STAR. And so my work involves hardware, that is analog data, and then analysis, converting it to digital data and analyzing it. So yeah, that's my work basically.
Great. Thanks, Ananya. So I know this was maybe for a lot of people very theoretical, but one of the points that we want to make through this webinar is that technology is used in almost every field these days. And it's important to kind of, have more women join this field just because so much of the future work is going to be based on technology. For example, we heard from Vidya, who's done a range of different kinds of work from coding to project management to pre-sales. And on the other hand, Sarah has been working on hate speech, and Ananya's work is really in physics, but she obviously uses a lot of technical work, which is something that you would associate with somebody doing computer sciences. But the point is that you just kind of have to use technology in most of the fields today. And from that perspective itself, it's important for more people, more women to join, because at least one of the things in the US, we've been hearing a lot recently is about, with the Me Too movement, how even in technology, there's a lot of bias, not just related to salaries, but also related to, the timings. They're very accommodating timings. And yet a lot of women find it very challenging to work these long hours, work at odd hours, because they have to take care of the family, cook, a lot of other things. And I was interestingly reading some data about India and women in workforce in technology in India. And actually the numbers are pretty good when you compare to the rest of the world, which is very interesting. With a caveat that, again, a lot of women drop out after some years of having a family, just because I think technology jobs or jobs in these large corporations can be quite demanding in terms of the amount of time that you have to spend. And so it becomes difficult to cope. Vidya, do you have any kind of experience with other women that you may have worked over these years? Because you, amongst all the speakers, have worked the longest, time.
Yeah, that's true. And I can quote from my own personal example. So I'm a twin, basically. I have a twin sister, and she and I together joined the technology field. We were selected from campus. She was in IIT, I was in PhD Tech, and we were selected from campus. So over the years, I think our journey was pretty much similar for nearly 18 years. So beyond that, she had a kid, and we used to commute a lot, those days to, Whitefield and so on. It was like in Bangalore, if any of you are in Bangalore, you can imagine the commute cannot usually be to Whitefield if you are anywhere in the city. It's no less than 2 hours. So it's basically something where my sister struggled with it to manage a child and a parent who needed to be supported, and so it was quite a struggle. And she had to decide to kind of take a sabbatical at that point, and and eventually she quit. But what I'm saying is we were two, and I didn't have those constraints, and because I was not married, and basically we had a scenario where two of us exactly on equal terms, and because of the demand of the commute and the expectations around the amount of time that you spend out there. And those days and COVID has changed a lot of that, right? We have a lot of flexibility now. We can work from home, and people understand that things can be accomplished from home, and including our customers. But in those days, I think there was a lot of expectation from customers as well, that you sit in a ODC and you work, and because there are a lot of security concerns if you were perceived, right, if you're working from home. So a lot of that has changed, and COVID has done a lot of good in a way, because it has shown people that you can work remotely and without impacting your productivity or quality of work, and you can collaborate. So I think that's a step forward, and I would hope that a lot of companies don't regress back to those old state, because this has shown that people can work and also spend time with family as well as be productive, right, at work. So
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah, it's been a big change, and it interestingly in the US, there's been a lot of discussion of how people lot of people don't want to go back to the, the older routine because now they've seen how it can work just, sitting at home. Sarah, you had some interesting thoughts when we were, chatting about how, I mean, typically a lot of parents and general society's impression is, oh, these fields are way too technical and, maths and subjects that you require for this are not something that are ideal for girls also because you may get married and you don't really need to have such a professional career. But your family seems to have a very different take on this. Yeah. Can you, if you can unmute yourself?
Yeah, so first of all, coming back to the point that you made that in India, the ratios are slightly better when compared to US. I think in India, we still see sciences as, one of the core like professional areas, especially engineering. And if you come from middle class, irrespective of whether you're a girl or a boy, they know that you will be pushed towards science. So the discrimination, I think, is more of a, it happens once you enter the institute and you're interacting with people and you see less number of women that, systematically that brings the biases and everything. That maybe, one of the reasons why we have good numbers in India is because we see engineering as a stepping stone towards a better life first than as a gender issue. But yes, these gender issues do still exist, and yes, I'm lucky in terms of, as you said, that my family has been very supportive of this. I think it's attribute one of the factors is that I have always seen women around me, whether it was my mother, my aunts, working and educate, getting themselves educated, getting higher, doing higher studies or doing extra courses. So this culture of everyone should be financially independent and everyone should have equal access to opportunity was always like given top priority. So that is, definitely very encouraging, and we see that happening a lot more now with people becoming more aware of different opportunities, and people becoming aware that irrespective of the gender of the person, they can perform well and be good at technology or not. And now with so much of support in terms of learning resources, people are seeing what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So maybe someone is a more of a visual learner, someone might be good with online courses. So now people have different access to learning, which is also broadening people's perspective of how they can understand different subjects. They can choose the difficulty level and go from there. So I think all of these factors combined is definitely uh, improving the participation of women. But yes, we still have like some more ladders to climb. Yeah.
But Sarah, also I remember you commented that some people in your family actually think this is a better field for women because they don't have to like go out. It's safer in some way, right?
Yeah, so definitely like you will have some people with that perspective, because my field, which is computer science, is relatively more office oriented work. uh, Especially like the core application of computer science is more you sit in an office and you do the job, rather than whether if you're a civil engineer or an architect, you will be required to go on site and do inspection or travel a lot. So in that terms, yes, like it's a pro that you can say that you don't have those restrictions. So it may be helpful if you're trying to balance your work and family. Then it's like it's a win-win situation, so people feel more comfortable in saying that okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, also, I was thinking of some of the previous webinars that we had. Like the first one was actually women in workspaces. And almost all the speakers, I think all the speakers pointed out about the unsafe, like traveling just in buses or even metros or being on the streets. And there was a journalist who talked about traveling all over India, how that itself is not very safe, at least in northern India. It might be a little different
Yeah.
in south.
I mean, something as simple as access to proper sanitation when you're
Yeah,
on the roads. It's
yeah.
like nearly non-existent in India. So
Yeah, yeah. And so from maybe those perspectives also, this seems like, okay, this is much safer. You can work from home or you go to companies who have those,
those
facilities,
facilities, yeah.
which are a lot better than maybe in other fields. Yeah.
Yeah, and like not to like say that this is a pro or a con, but definitely like the salaries in the IT sector is better. So people see that as another plus point, that it's a ghar baite, you get uh,
Of course.
good money also. So yeah, definitely. I think most of these biases exist because we see more men on field, so the work around the environment or the outside work environment is more oriented towards them. And now that more and more women are participating, these issues, whether they are sanitation, travel safety, now it's coming up and becoming more prominent. And now companies are providing vehicle facilities. They are making sure that if some women colleague is traveling late at night, it gets recorded, and there is a reporting system for it. The managers are aware. So all of these things now companies are doing for safety, and so that things are proper in place. But yes, as you said, there will always be people pointing out like this is better and that is better. But I think with time, if we give enough opportunities, and if we give enough time for people to work on these lack of resources, we will definitely see more women participating in other fields as well.
Yeah. So Ananya, you maybe if you could share your journey from your college to Jamia to the US, what inspired you to go, travel all these miles, and how was your response? How was the response of your family? And also what your observations are on gender biases that you observed in India versus the US.
So, ma'am, actually, I always wanted to pursue basic science, even when I was in 11th and 12th. So I did not take the usual route of engineering or medicine. And my parents are both working, but they are not from the science background. So they did not know of the prospects of doing basic sciences. So that was always a question. But then when I expressed that I wanted to study in University of Delhi, they were quite supportive. And then I joined, I did my BSc and my MSc, and then my education was purely theoretical, like just working with a pen or paper and working out mathematics. But I've always wanted to come to the US to pursue a PhD, because the PhD program actually in the US is a very wholesome experience where you take coursework, and then you decide which area you want to go into, and then you also have to write a proposal for your by yourself after discussions with your group members and everyone, and then it is made sure that you are up to the mark where you defend your thesis. So with regards to that as well, I began my pursuit after I did my MSc from Jamia, and I took like a year off. But when I came to the US, I noticed that there are very few women in the PhD program, whether be it domestic American women or international women. And that was a bit intimidating in the first, because with all men and a very competitive environment, it was kind of getting a little bit toxic for me, because I didn't think this would happen in the US, but sexism is quite rampant in the field of research, especially in the field of physics, where there are like a lot of men a lot of them are of the opinion that women are not good with physics and mathematics, even though you have proven yourself time and again with scoring good marks and getting all the research grants. But a lot of them are of the opinion that women are not as able as men, and they are not as they do not think as logically, or they do not put forward good results. But and as you could see in my pictures as well, I was the only female graduate student working with the hardware, and I had a lot of men from all nationalities. Although there are examples of some exceptional women, I would like to mention Elka Aschenauer, who is our boss in this project that I am doing, and she's from Germany. But yeah, I see a lot fewer women here in the US than in the education sector of India. And I'd also like to mention that in India, a lot of people are of the opinion that women should go into education and should become professors and teachers, and it is like a good and safe job, as Sarah also mentioned, for the IT field. It is same for the education field. But I don't know why the case is here in the US, why women do not come forward to do like a PhD or pursue a higher degree in STEM related, science related fields.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. I have worked in technology companies. That's my professional career. And I've noticed that even in these big IT companies, a lot of women are actually in the either human resources, administrative, or marketing positions. And when you look at women who are in technical, those who are coders or basically doing very, very technical work, they're often actually Indian women. So that's definitely true, I think, throughout my career, which has been quite a few years. And it's a very interesting where, I mean, the US still has a lot of sexism, as, a lot of the Me Too movement kind of brought out in many different professions. And technology was not a profession where many people were, I think, aware of this. And there were a lot of discussions of even some of the parties that are thrown. But these are some very famous companies, Google, Facebook types of companies, amongst which some women came forward and described some of the parties that they had to go to, and how uncomfortable it was for women. So it's a very interesting, observation that in some way, even though there's a lot of patriarchy in India, but in the field of technology, you kind of see that more women feel more comfortable joining, and so do their families. Vidya, I wanted to ask you about some of the observations that we were talking about, because we've been working in this field for a much longer time compared to the other speakers, and how generally the approach to opportunities, or the younger generation, approach to professional careers has changed quite a bit over the years compared to what it was when we were growing up, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's I would say it's all for the good also, because when we started, the choices were few, and we often were asked to do certain things, and we would think twice or 100 times before we said no to a certain thing. And but these days, youngsters know exactly what they want to do, and good for them, I would say. And they would like to follow a certain career path, and they do not want to be distracted from those paths. And they seek opportunities, and if they don't get them in the companies that they are working with, they look elsewhere, and they are, less attached to a particular company than we were, or we still are. And so that is one. And obviously there is a lot of advancements. You've seen Sarah working on analytics, and there's a lot of new technologies and new areas that are coming up. And we need people who are quicker at, it's what already is less of a need than how quickly can you learn something new, right? Especially in the IT industry, it's like the rate at which you can pick up a new skill is the main differentiator, and that is where the people are sought rather than what they know, and because it's already obsolete in a couple of years. So these are the things that I have seen, and such people are valued much more than people who have traditionally tried to follow the same technology, the same go deeper and deeper. In TCS right now, what we advocate is the T-shaped skill, right? Basically, you acquire depth in a particular area, like could be analytics or could be databases, but you have the breadth of knowledge in a wider area where you are able to appreciate the ecosystem as opposed to just going deep into a single area. So I think there's a lot of encouragement for people to pursue digital technologies like analytics and cloud and so on. And the youngsters are expected to pick these skills up, and that is the change that we are seeing here. And the other change that I've seen, when I joined my company, the emphasis was a lot on getting into project management and program management and delivery leadership and so on, where the career path was more focused on management. But now the emphasis is more on looking at technology and looking at customer experience, right? Look at how users or end customers perceive what you're developing. And there are multiple career paths developing in these spaces: user experience and customer journeys, and very technical career paths where people become architects as opposed to project managers. And agile is an area which is definitely prevalent right now and widespread. And basically the emphasis is less on management and more on how people can collaborate and work together as a team and contribute their skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we're seeing people from many different backgrounds, from fine arts background, from liberal arts background, people with, like I had a boss, as I was telling Vidya once, who has a degree in anthropology and dancing. So, well, when I first, before I met her, I was wondering, what it would be like working with her. But then our work was a lot about customer experience, customer journeys, and a lot of visualization about that to be able to present to management. And I think the skills that she has were good for that role. And so that's also a change that has happened over the years with the type of work that Sarah is doing, or a lot of social media, work that these companies do in the back end, is a lot of psychology, a lot of human behavior analysis, and there's also a lot of emphasis on the how the product looks, how a digital product looks. It needs to be simple, it needs to be attractive. Apple played a big role, and Steve Jobs, in terms of making the visual experience really important, because I think back in the days it was like just develop something and it should just be, it should be working, but not so much emphasis on that. And so again, from a visual design perspective, people who have a degree in arts, can make a huge difference. My work, I worked a lot with with the design team because there was a lot of emphasis on that aspect, based on what the customer needs are. So that's where the point is that these days you may be, your degree may be in something else, and yet it can be very applicable to technology, to technical companies. And I think in the future, maybe it'll be even more of that. Another thing I think we've, at least I've observed when I was, I spent a year consulting at Jamia and engaged with a lot of young people, and Sarah I've known since then. And I saw that there were a lot of young people, which goes to Vidya's point about there being more opportunities. They were also very willing to take more risks and start their own startups, give some time to just like do that. And had ideas, and there is an encouragement, I guess, even there has been from the government also. That's why universities have, now most universities have these innovation entrepreneurship setups, and there's a big startup ecosystem developing. And I think, again, generally more, a lot of the youth is going into that, doing consulting, freelancing type of work. And I think for women, again, that has maybe like been also an avenue that has opened up, because it gives more flexibility, to them, I think. Isn't that, like, Sarah, you may have, seen that, right, with people from your batches or you work with?
Definitely. So even like in research here at IIIT Delhi, we have these startups. But if their product is something that requires a research background, they can consult with the faculty, they can consult with the PhD students and engage them in such programs. And as you pointed out, there are now entrepreneurship cells in each and every like major tier 1, tier 2 institute that we know. And definitely there is encouragement. And the best part is it's on campus. So most of the people, like if they're staying in the hostel, they can make use of the facilities 24/7. So a lot of those barriers in terms of opportunity and resources get filled up here, which like helps the youth and in turn helps the women. So we definitely see that.
Yeah. I want to let everyone know that we welcome questions. You can ask the speakers anything. And you can either post text in the chat, or you can raise a hand. And I would highly encourage people to do that. And we also have a Google form posted in the chat where we're requesting people to, give their information for future webinars and things like that. So if you can fill that form, that would also be greatly appreciated. So there are, obviously there seem to be a lot of like positive things. Are there any, your observations, any of you, on what could be done? So we obviously are kind of a very privileged group, who's here today. And on the other hand, my organization works in, a slum area in East Delhi. And during the COVID, it was very challenging to do any digital classes, because kids were not, obviously they couldn't come to the center, the learning center. And most kids come from families who actually don't even have smartphones. So we tried to do some digital classes, and yet it was very difficult because it wouldn't have been fair to, have some kids take classes and others not. I think it was Ananya maybe who mentioned about STEM programs. But even otherwise, any thoughts on from you all like Vidya, you work at TCS, and maybe that I'm sure there are projects that TCS is doing that we could kind of learn from with the work that we are doing. But Ananya, maybe you could like talk a little bit very briefly about STEM. Maybe people already know about it, but that was one of your suggestions to kind of have more young people at an early age get interested, right? In
Yes, ma'am. So like when I was at Stony Brook University, there was this program with high school students that girls from high schools, whether be 10th grade or 12th grade, they would join an extra program after their school hours. They would come into the university, and each of them would be divided into groups of 10 to 15, and they would be mentored by PhD students. So the PhD students could be of any field, physics or computer science or chemistry, any STEM program. The PhD students would design a curriculum for those for the girls for over a period of a semester, which is 6 months. And they would meet once a week, and they would just talk about science. They would just talk about the research related to the PhD students. They could either be just talking about playing with toys. As of me, I also mentored 2 semesters, and I taught them Arduino. So everything was provided by the university, by the program. So the students did not need to spend anything out of their pocket. We were also getting paid for this opportunity. So it was also good for us that we were able to translate our research to such a basic level. And I taught them Arduino. I taught them a little bit of coding. A lot of those girls, they were not into engineering or electronics in the beginning. Most of them wanted to go to law or pursue medicine. But when they built working models, and when they coded and made their working models, I could see that they were very much encouraged, and they were very happy to work, and they were like really encouraged to join engineering fields, and they knew that how this all works. I would also like to mention that when I was in India and when I was doing my BSc in Delhi University, we had this chapter called a SPY chapter, the Society for Photonics and Instrumentation Engineers, and we would build models, and we students would go to different schools to demonstrate those models. We went to private schools as well as government schools, and we spent like an hour or two with the students talking about science and demonstrating our models. So it is not like a pedagogical situation where we read from textbooks. We just talk and interact with them and show them some working models, say what we do in a very informal fashion, and that encourages students and young minds a lot, because most of them are just bored with maths and science. And in fact, girls get afraid of like solving maths, but when they actually see that science can be fun, they are encouraged to join. And when they see that this is the role of technology, what technology plays in science and maths, they are even more encouraged to join this field. And that innate fear that maybe I cannot do it because it's too hard on me, that becomes easier. And that's more encouraging to them.
Yeah, more practical use of technology. Yeah. Mm. Any thoughts, Vidya, Sarah? And once again, any questions from anybody? I think the speakers would love to have questions. We have maybe about 5 minutes left. So feel free to ask anything that you would want to. Yeah, Vidya, Sarah, anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Ananya said, and I think exposure is very key. That people, the kids get exposed to people in real life, and make it something that seems not a theoretical or abstract thing, but living, breathing people who have done these things and who are approachable and make it seem less difficult. That is one thing. And me personally, like when we were in middle school, we were exposed to senior students who came and talked to us about technology, and also there was a computer that was given to us, and we were asked to play with it and try coding, and I think all of these help. Where you take the fear out of technology and make it something that is approachable. And I think to your point, Yasmin, basically the more and we are privileged people, right? And we had access, we had parents who supported us, and money was not a problem to study. At least I got a scholarship in my engineering through my engineering, and also it was much cheaper those days to study, and nowadays it's a little more expensive. So I think for the underprivileged, definitely financing is a very key support that is needed, and it cannot just be at an individual level, right? And it has to be something that is done by the government, and there needs to be a lot of investment to support the underprivileged kids and support them through the education, and it's and access to even computers, it should be made more accessible. I don't know if this is the right forum to bring these things up, but these are all very essential things.
No, I think it is a good forum, because there are people here who work with a lot of nonprofits, and this digital divide is I think is a big issue in India. And the COVID has definitely exposed that, and there have been articles about it. There was a question from Renuka, I think, because her hand was up. So let's just have Renuka first ask her question, and then we can continue. Go ahead, Renuka.
Yeah, hi. Yeah. Hi, Yasmin.
Hi.
Lovely session. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I just thought that it'd be interesting to bring up another point, that women, and basically nowadays the choices, I think the ability to make a choice itself has happened very recently. Because if I give my own example, coming from Bangalore, all my cousin sisters and cousin brothers, everybody was a computer engineer or a software engineer. Mm-hmm. And when I chose to study design, that itself was such a radical shift, and my parents were so worried, what kind of a job will you get, such uncertainty in those times. This was in the 90s, like late 80s. So I kind of think that it's not just technology and women and finding lesser number of women comparatively opting for a technology career, but it's also any kind of choice and being able to follow what you would like to really do with your life. Those are the questions, because my family would have been very happy. Like Vidya was saying, the software career was seen as a very safe option for women. Lecturers and professors, of course, very safe options. But thankfully, today's generation is choosing to do humanities, choosing to do journalism. And I think a couple of points in today's discussion that came up, which really, I think, struck a chord with me, is that they're also not so hung up about what they already know, but they're quick learners. They're excellent observational skills and analytical skills that young people are nowadays showing, which makes them usually good learners and therefore go further with their careers, whatever they might choose to do. And in design, particularly because we focus so much on user experiences, and it's all about how you design the product. Like product design talks about basically the interface between the product and people and the user. But there you have to have all these observation and intense ability to listen to people and understand what they really want. So those kind of skills young people are really now developing, even from humanities, wherever. So that's an interesting point that Sridharan made, which I really appreciated. No, not what you know, but your ability to be quick learners. That's what's going to be the differentiator.
So true.
And I think the younger generation, maybe because of the opportunities that they have and the freedom to choose, they have a lot more confidence. I've observed. They seem. I remember when I was at Jamia, Sarah, I'm talking about Raghav. You know Raghav, I'm sure. He'd got some offers and he was so confident about not actually taking up any of those really good offers. And I was like, are you very sure about that? And he's like, yeah, I'm very sure. And I'm planning to Bangalore. And, I have these ideas and he's actually doing really well, right? I mean, so there is a level of confidence that I've seen and I'm not talking about just technical people in technical backgrounds or just generally anybody. That's a big change that has happened, I think. Yeah. Mani has a question. Mani, maybe you can unmute yourself and ask. Did you have a question? I don't know. Maybe it was. Is it?
Yeah. Yasmin, while you're waiting for the other person to respond, I just wanted to know, do you think that why is the government pushing so much for all young people to go into STEM? Because they're really seeing a drop in people opting out of STEM subjects, because there obviously seems to be a lot of emphasis on encouraging young people to take up STEM subjects.
I mean, I don't know. I feel it's partly right now, if I may say so. There seems to be a trend to follow a lot of what the US is doing. And STEM was given a lot of emphasis by President Obama. And there was a big push towards that. I think there is generally such a dominance of technology companies. And I think that when, at least in the US, President Obama pushed for it, there were a lot of discussions around the gap in workforce to cope with the automation and the very technical profiles that were needed or expertise that was needed, like in data sciences. And I think that's one of the reasons why there was a push for that. And I think maybe in India too, they see India services and technology-related services has been a huge part of India's economy. Not so much hardware, but software. And maybe because of that, they just feel that if we need more people with those kinds of skills for the workforce, that may be a reason. But I also feel that what the negative of that has been is that a lot of students are going into very technical fields, engineering fields, and fewer students are taking other subjects, in liberal arts and humanity, history, things like that, literature, which is, I feel, not good for the society as a whole. And this is, I think, like showing up, getting exposed in a lot of ways with the, a lot of countries have seen this deep divide in people's, thinking you're on one side or the other side, extremism growing. And we didn't actually get to talk to Sarah a lot about her work, which is on hate. And I think maybe this is a good opportunity for Sarah to comment on this, yeah, Sarah, like your work and what if you could maybe comment on some of this.
Yeah, so yes, like agreeing with what Renika and you have shared. So, like, just giving an example out of the blue, that when we study hate speech, we have to go through a lot of the content, and a lot of it is very misogynistic in nature. So you read the comments that people make, for whether it was the Me Too movement or whether it is any female political leader or activist. You see a lot of those, hate comments directed at them, and it's very like jarring. And one of the reasons for that is that we mentioned earlier that the Indian society as a whole, even though we may have more women taking up technology and more women, not just technology, in any field, like coming forward and putting their voices out, we still are a patriarchal society in nature in India. And the second thing is that in India compared to US, employment and education in India is like very
Yes. Yeah.
so like solidly like connected or soldered together. So as Yasmin ma'am was mentioning, that a person in liberal arts went on to be a part of the design team in technology company, doing that in India is very still very difficult. So we still have a very narrow mindset when we talk about integrating people from other fields into our field, which is in terms of hate speech, a representation of our close-mindedness as a society in a socio-cultural level. So we do see that happening. The biases and the structure of our society in the real world reflected on the internet. Hate speech is just one of the examples of it, but you'll see that happening in other spheres of the Indian internet system as well. So that's there. Those are the 2 points that I thought I should point out.
Yeah. No, those are very good points. We're out of time, so just want to wrap up any. I think what that also points out is, obviously, it will make a difference if more women participate in every space, right? Like you said, a lot of the hate speech, when you do analysis of it, is by men, by misogynists, and that can change only, as someone had said to in one of the webinars. One girl had said, we just need to kind of have our presence in more spaces, occupy more spaces, and that is, that can make a change, because more representation will kind of bring about change. Any final thoughts from any of the speakers before we just wrap up?
No, I think all great comments. And I think we, as a society, we have been traditionally very security minded and security conscious, and, tied to jobs and, a secure future. I think and especially, with the middle class, there has been one generation of secure jobs. So the next generation definitely would experiment and, look at opportunities that they, pursue for their passion as opposed to for security, hopefully. I think we're seeing that.
Yeah. Okay. With that, I think we should wrap this up. Once again, I thank everybody for joining today. This was the last webinar in the series on young women, but we do plan to have more webinars on different topics. And actually, all of you feel free to make your suggestions anywhere on social media, wherever, on what topics you would like more discussions on. And if you could fill the Google forms, that would also be greatly appreciated. So we have your contact information for the future. And do join us on social media. You can look up Foundation for Equal Citizenship. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Insta, LinkedIn. We're there everywhere, even though we don't post a lot. But once again, thanks everyone, and have a good night in India. And we started really early in the US. Maybe you can go back to sleep. Time changed also. So sometimes it's a bit confusing. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Yasmin ma'am, for inviting me to this session. Thanks.
I
Bye.
know, ma'am, it sounds so embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I've tried to tell a lot of people who knew me from Jamia days that, oh, please don't call me ma'am. And interestingly, the younger generation I'm interacting with, Shoaib is one of them, who's actually a lot younger than Sarah and Ananya. And they don't say ma'am
True.
or even
That's
Bati,
true.
or so it's very interesting for me to observe that as well. I'm not really telling anyone how they should address me, but I've seen this difference, which is, I mean, it's good. Okay, then.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
sure. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.